Renenutet, the cobra-headed woman, a very important figure in Kemetic mythology or Kemetic cosmology, who, in my interpretation, does not get her run in terms of how important she actually is. Now, this is a deity that's existed since the earliest times in Kemetic, per their cosmology, their timeline of deities, and may precede even the Pasejet, probably somewhere between the rise of the Pasejet and the Himenu or the Ogdoad, but from the very beginning, probably in this period of time. And she is incredibly important for a few reasons. Now, she's seen obviously as a cobra-headed deity, and we know the association of the cobra being itself linked to knowledge, your Kundalini, right? Accessing infinite wisdom through your third eye, right? That's the whole association with the Uraeus, again, that cobra. And she would be associated with this. And I'll get into explaining where that association comes from. She's also linked to providing nourishment for the Nasut. Her name means one who nurses or rears children. And she plays a very important role in the regeneration, like the birth cycle, the actual growing of a baby. She plays a role in that, and also your fate. And we'll talk more about that as well. Now, one of the months of the Kemetic year is actually named for her. She is the 8th month of the Egyptian calendar. And from what we get from her is this cobra-headed depiction, always seen either with it as a cobra or as a woman with the head of a cobra, all right? Again, this being her character. And very important, as she would be associated not only with knowledge, but also nourishment and a form of luck. Now, her consort typically is seen as Sobek. Sobek, of course, being the crocodile-headed Neter, who is a protector in the sense of the river or the Nile and is an incredibly powerful figure. This is who she would be linked to throughout most of the history that she was written about. And she's written back in some antiquities talking about her power. This is a particularly powerful expression that comes from, this is the pyramid text here. And this is very important. This is a deceased king who is speaking. And he says, I have succeeded to Geb, I have succeeded to Atum, I am on the throne of Horus, the firstborn, and his eye is my strength. I am protected from what was done against me. The flaming blast of my Uraeus is that of Renenutet, who is upon me. A very subtly powerful benediction about this Neter here. She is the eye of Horus. Now, we've spoken previously about the Eye of Ra and who that represented, which could be Sekhmet and Bastet, who wore that title, and other Neters. And we know the power of one such as Sekhmet and what she went out and ventured and did, all based on having the ability to call on that raw power. Now, the Eye of Heru is obviously some different symbolism, and if I believe correctly, represents more in association with the moon. But obviously, this is Heru, the one who restored order, so a great power in being this Eye of Heru. This is seen as the spitting cobra, and the spitting cobra that she represents is in line with protection of the king and also legitimizes his representation as that sower deity. She wears this association as the cobra and it exudes extreme power. And it's also said that the Eye of Horus may represent more an terrestrial bond, being divine in some animal forms such as baboons or even humans. Now, conversely, she is still seen as a goddess of the harvest, and this would be a very important association with her. It keeps her connected to mankind in the cycles of, obviously, drought, flooding, harvest. This is another important introduction that it gives to her as the Eye of Horus, because we like to confirm that. Hail to thee, O Eye of Horus, Renenutet upon Wedjejet Hotep, thou to whom Re has given glory before the Ened. And again, I mentioned that how far back she was mentioned in Kemetic beliefs being between that birth from the Ogdoad before the Besegit, or the 9 that we know as the most prominent. That would be, Osiris, Set, Nephthys, and the others that, Hathor, that make up that 9. Now, she's also been associated with Hedjet Hotep, who is a god of weaving. And this would be an important reference because she is seen as being a protector for Nasut and associated with the god of weaving. And this would talk about the garments that they would wear, that these would be divine garments that are infused between this god of weaving and this neter of protection. So when they talk about the god of weaving and his role, this is what the two of them would create. The Renenutet garment of which the gods are afraid, so that the gods may fear you just as they fear the eye of Horus. So again, this awesome, fearful power generated by the eye of Horus, who is Renenutet, is conveyed upon protecting, in this case it would be royalty or even another neter, wrapping them up in that protection, that people would feel that emanation of power, because being wrapped in this garment was like being protected by this eye of Horus. So a very, very important role that she plays. But she also plays a role in the development of the infant. I had mentioned that she was also associated with fate. And in this role, it's very clear. Now, she is sometimes joined with Heket and Meskehetnet, who form a trinity. And they would be responsible from conception, that being Heket, Renenutet for growth, and Meskehetnet for the actual delivery. And we've talked about these two deities separately. And remember, Heket also has a very powerful connection to magic. So these are very powerful neters in this association. Now, Renenutet, in her role as being your luck or your prosperity, that being the part that nourishes you. So it is a spiritual nourishment that will stay with you, that will allow you to grow and allow you to flourish. And she has we talk about her child as well. And it is said in the coffin text that her son is Nephednuka, who is a son of Geb. Born of your mother, Renenutet, you are indeed the Ka of every god. Horus has greeted you, for he recognized you as the Ka of all gods. And again, this goes into her association with your fate, that she is actually the one who weaves or produces or bears the fate of all. That comes from her, as her being associated as your luck. So this is not so much as the literal crops when we talk about her being a goddess or neter of the harvest, but the harvest, or what she is growing, is that Ka, or that destiny, or that fate that all of us are ultimately tied to. And these are seen as the true elements of her power, why she is pictured in such a way that she is. It is also said that a scribe's Renenutet is on his shoulder from the day that he is born, that they are weaving your fate from the very time that you were in the womb. As you were growing, she was feeding and weaving your destiny, your fate, and that would continue on into the other aspects of your life. Now, her and Sobek also would bear another son that there's not very much mentioned about, but he does surface in Greek texts as Ankehi, or called the living. His importance or relevance to her particular mythology isn't known, because there's not much in the ancient books that reference this, and this was possibly developed at later times, or we understand developed at later times in the mythology. Renenutet herself was so powerful that she was often grouped in 4 aspects of herself, representing the multitude of protection, weaving of fate, knowledge, and her role in nurturing and motherhood. So there were 4 representations of her, and these were gathered in temples. So she was venerated extremely highly, and always written about in being the foremost of the mansion of goods. She is said to have been representative of a flourishing kingdom or flourishing time. Now, her role in both the ancient Kemetic texts, from the coffin text to the pyramid text and some of the other sacred papyrus, only speak to the importance of this almost hidden nectar. So if you have something that you'd like to add to this particular piece as we grow this knowledge of Renenutet, please do so in the comment section. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe. It does a lot to help grow the channel. I definitely appreciate your help. Thanks again. We'll see you back at Nine World Chronicles.